If you've been training your chest consistently for months or even years but you still haven't built the size you want, there's a good chance you're making one or more of the 3 mistakes I'm going to cover in this video. And the good news is these are all things you can fix. I'm going to break down exactly how you should be programming your chest, the mistakes you might be making with your technique, and how you need to fuel your body if you actually want to build new muscle. Get these 3 things right, and over the next 90 days, you will start seeing noticeable improvements. Mistake number 1, your programming. When you're trying to build a bigger, more developed chest, one of the first things you need to understand is that you're not simply training one big muscle. The pecs can be divided into 3 regions: the upper or clavicular portion, the middle or sternal portion, and the lower or costal portion. Now, these aren't 3 completely separate muscles, and you can't completely isolate one portion of your chest from the others, but because the muscle fibers run in different directions, we can use different pressing and fly movements to get more emphasis on different regions. And this is where a lot of people get their chest programming wrong. When we select an exercise, we want to consider the direction in which the muscle fibers run and the function of that particular region of your pec. So, rather than doing 5 different exercises that all essentially train your chest in the same way, we want to select movements that give us good coverage across the different regions. For the upper chest, where the clavicular fibers originate from the clavicle, we want movements where your upper arm travels up and across the body. Good examples of this would include an incline dumbbell press, an incline cable press, or an incline cable fly. When it comes to your bench angle, I generally wouldn't recommend going excessively steep. Once you start going towards 45 degrees or higher, you're going to involve significantly more of the anterior deltoid, which can reduce the emphasis on your upper chest. For most people, something around 15 to 30 degrees is going to be a much better starting point. For the middle portion of the chest, the sternal fibers run more horizontally across the torso, so exercises such as a flat dumbbell press or flat bench press, a dumbbell or cable fly are all great options. Personally, I prefer dumbbells over a barbell for a lot of my horizontal pressing. One reason is that I can generally achieve a greater range of motion, particularly at the bottom of the movement, and I also don't need someone standing behind me to spot me if I'm training close to failure. That doesn't mean you can't build an incredible chest with the barbell bench press. If you love benching, absolutely keep it in your program, but I personally haven't used a barbell bench press consistently for the last 4 or 5 years, and I've still been able to make significant progress with my chest using other movements. For the lower portion of the chest, we want to look at movements where the upper arm travels more downwards relative to the position of your torso. Dips can work really well here, as can a decline chest press if you have access to one, particularly if the machine gives you a resistance profile and arm path that allows you to drive the upper arm down and across your body. Now, another thing I've found over the years, both personally and with clients, is that training your chest twice per week can work extremely well. If you're using an upper-lower split, for example, this gives you 2 opportunities to train your chest while you're relatively fresh, rather than trying to cram all your weekly chest volume into one session. And if chest development is your priority, I'd also recommend putting your chest exercises relatively early in your workout. There's no point putting all of your energy into 3 other exercises, then expecting to produce your best training at the end of your session. But there's one more thing I want you to think about when you're programming your chest. You don't just want exercises that challenge the pecs in the same part of the range of motion. Ideally, your program should include movements that challenge your chest when it's relatively lengthened, as well as movements that provide meaningful resistance when the pec is shortened. This is one reason I like including a cable fly or pec deck in a chest program. With a dumbbell or barbell press, the resistance profile means that the chest isn't necessarily challenged throughout the entire range of motion, and the top of the movement can become relatively easy. With a cable fly or a pec deck, you can maintain much more consistent tension as you bring your arms together and challenge the chest in that shortened position. Mistake number 2, poor execution. Mistake number 2 is such a simple one, yet I see it literally every single time I step into a gym. If you want to make building a fully developed chest much harder than it needs to be, start doing half reps, cutting your range of motion short, and letting your ego dictate the amount of weight you're using. Now, there's nothing wrong with wanting to get stronger, and in fact, progressive overload is a fundamental part of building muscle, but getting stronger at the expense of actually training the target muscle or recruiting all of the possible muscle fibers isn't productive. If you have to reduce the range of motion, bounce the weight off your chest, or completely lose control of the movement just so you can put another plate on the bar, you are not necessarily creating a better stimulus for your pecs. Instead, pick a weight that allows you to control the movement through a consistent and meaningful range of motion. And then, most importantly, train hard. One of the biggest drivers of hypertrophy is mechanical tension, and as a set gets closer to failure, more of the available high threshold motor units are recruited to keep the weight moving. The key is that those final hard reps should still look like the exercise you're actually trying to perform, and your technique shouldn't completely fall apart just because the weight has become difficult. The bar or dumbbells might move slower, your reps might become more challenging, but your range of motion, control, and basic technique should remain consistent throughout the entire set. If your first rep looks completely different to your final rep, you're probably using more weight than you can effectively control. Choose a load that allows you to train the muscle you're actually trying to grow. Get close enough to failure to create a strong stimulus and then progressively improve your performance over time. Mistake number 3, you're not fueling growth. You can have the perfect chest program, you can execute every exercise well, you can train incredibly hard, but if you are consistently not giving your body enough energy and nutrients to support growth, you're going to make the process significantly harder than it needs to be. Now, if you're relatively new to resistance training, you can absolutely build muscle while maintaining your weight or even losing body fat. But as you become more advanced, building additional muscle becomes increasingly difficult without giving your body enough energy to support the process. And this is where a lot of people get stuck. They spend 3 weeks in a calorie surplus, decide they've gained too much body fat, spend the next 6 weeks dieting, and then repeat that process over and over again, never seeing any results. Building muscle is a slow process. If you want to maximize your chance of growing, you need to give your body enough time and enough resources to actually do it. That doesn't mean you need to go on a massive dirty bulk and eat everything in sight. In fact, research suggests that larger calorie surpluses don't necessarily result in proportionally greater muscle gain, but they can result in significantly more fat gain. So, for most people, I'd recommend using a relatively modest calorie surplus and monitoring your rate of weight gain over time. For an experienced natural lifter, I generally want that rate of gain to be relatively slow. Something around 0.25 kilograms per week is a sensible starting point, and you can adjust your calories depending on what happens to your weight, performance, and body composition. Protein is also important. My preference in a growth phase is to actually aim for the slightly higher end and consume somewhere in the region of 2.2 to 2.6 grams per kilogram of body weight. And importantly, don't overlook the quality of the rest of your diet. There's nothing inherently wrong with having foods that you simply enjoy, but the majority of your diet should be built around nutritious foods that provide you with enough protein, carbohydrates, fats, vitamins, minerals, and fiber to support your training, recovery, and overall health. Ultimately, building a bigger chest isn't just about what happens during the 60 minutes you're in the gym. Your training will provide the stimulus and your nutrition will provide the resources, and recovery is where the adaptations take place. So, if you've been training your chest consistently but you're not seeing the results you want, Don't just add more exercises or start doing more sets. Look at these three things. Are you programming your chest exercises effectively? Are you actually executing your exercises properly and training hard enough? And are you eating and recovering in a way that supports growth? Get those three things right, and you have everything you need to start making serious progress. If you want to take the guesswork out of your training, I've linked my body recomposition guide in the description. It includes structured upper, lower, and full body programs with exercise options based around the equipment you actually have available in your gym. And if you found this video useful, hit like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.